Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Uphill Battle. Uh, this timestamp is April 16th, and it was a big week this week for a lot of us. It was the week, this was tax week.
Yes, it was.
Tax
Hello.
week, tax week just ended tax season yesterday.
Hmm.
Hopefully, everybody got in under the wire and paid our overlord.
Yeah.
How you making out, son?
No tax on tips. Hello.
No tax on tips.
Not good. Good. Good.
DoorDash. DoorDash Granny for everybody that's actually seen that in the news. If you
I,
didn't, you need to look it up. 'Cause it's a
I don't
heat.
think that's real. I don't.
Uh,
Not to
no.
say it's not real, but it. Nah. She. I saw that she was like all over the place. She was like at a hearing in a different state or something like that on something. Yeah.
They
I don't know.
what they actually did, they actually reused the same person that they
Hmm.
that testified
Hmm.
at a congressional hearing about how no tips would be a good thing. And
Yeah.
she actually lives in Arkansas. It was
Hmm.
a it was basically propaganda with the
Yeah.
same woman with a haircut and a dye,
Yeah.
and who actually delivers DoorDash with
McDonald's.
with oh no, who delivers DoorDash with a DoorDash shirt,
Yeah.
you know. But it kind of backfired because she said as a retiree, she's actually delivering DoorDash because to pay for her husband's cancer treatment. And you're doing that to the administration that took away people's health care.
Yeah.
So
How does
they're
that
not
sound?
they're not too swift up there. They're
No.
not too swift up there at all.
No,
So
and the image of it was nasty too because like it's this old lady who's
mhm.
delivering who has to deliver food to people to pay for her husband's cancer treatments, and she's delivering it to the billionaire president who has gold plated things outside the door of the Oval Office, a bunch of gold stuff in the Oval Office. That's just nasty. A great representation of where the country's at.
What's even more just out of touch is we know even if he was getting a delivery to his it would go through so many things of security. The delivery person will not make it to the Oval Office. Come
They're
on.
not driving up on the lawn at the gate. Nah, the whole thing. Yeah,
So let's
yeah.
let's 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 be realistic about this. I mean, many of his supporters are low IQ, so I guess they would actually think that was reality. I
Yeah.
mean, they did fall for the AI, military woman that was wearing a short like dress and high heels doing at a podium and walking next to the
Yeah,
president.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so they'll fall for
Yeah,
anything.
I recall that. I
They'll
recall
fall
that.
for anything. I
Of
mean,
course
they
they
did
will.
vote. They voted for him 3 times, so
Yep.
obviously they'll fall. They'll fall for anything. Um.
Hmm.
So, what was your thoughts about the depiction of him being Jesus? Did you see that?
Yes, I did. And my thoughts are, it was funny because at first I was like, okay, I feel like this is the thing where some of his base are finally going to come out against him. And
Mhm,
honestly, it did happen. Just
mhm,
even if it's like a small portion of them, but these are the people that have been with him. And of course, it's something like this. It's not even necessarily what him and Vance had to say about the Pope weighing in on the conflicts that Israel basically is engaged in and the US are engaged in. But
mhm.
it was him depicting himself as Jesus. And then he he's gonna try the same time the press conference he was given when talking when delivering getting that DoorDash delivery. He's over there saying, "Yeah, I didn't know it was me as Jesus. I thought it was me as a doctor."
Mhm.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And these people can see that. And I saw a video literally like probably like an hour ago. It was some Trump voter in Florida, and he was like, "Oh man, it's like a total disgrace. I can't believe this. Like this is not what I voted for." And the funny thing is, if Trump was to run again, he would vote for him. So this isn't like it's not going to do anything in the long term. But just to see that some of the base is coming out in some capacity against him, um, I don't know. It's just funny to see because like you guys are following him like he is Jesus. So why is him like why is him actually being depicted as it like make you so uncomfortable? It doesn't make any sense, but it's just funny.
Yeah, because they really are a cult. You
Yeah.
know, they twist their stuff in all type of different pretzels, trying to defend something that is said or done when it actually may even counteract what they actually followed him for.
Yeah.
So it's to the point where as though it's crazy because my concept of a politician and leader is you don't agree, you can't agree with anybody 100%. You
No.
can't you can't agree with your partner 100%. I mean, you can't agree with your parent 100%. You can't agree with your kids 100%. But to find somebody who is so just low IQ and so just devastatingly just nasty and filthy. I mean, people say he's a businessman, but he's bankrupt every business that he's had.
Yeah. Not a
And
successful one.
yes, and he's bankrupting people after forget about the lawsuits when he had the fake college. They forget about all the lawsuits about how he wouldn't rent to black people.
Hmm.
Um, they they forget about how he called for the execution of the Central Park Five, who were exonerated. You know, I mean, these are all bullet points that constantly keep on coming up, but
Hmm.
it's just a track record on the ledger. And at a certain point, let me ask you this before we get into it. A lot of people, which I see online, that are on the left, and they're not as left as I, but a lot of people say that to build a coalition that is going to get this country out of the situation that it's in now,
Hmm.
you have to allow these people to come on home and just be like, they were wrong. They see that they're wrong. And now you actually have to, coordinate with them because you need their vote.
Hmm.
I'm just wondering, what's your opinion on it? I have my own, but I want to know. I mean, especially um, you being at that, I guess you would be considered a millennial at a
Hmm.
millennial age, and like, what are the people in your age bracket is actually saying when it comes to the quote unquote Trump supporters or voters, and they've seen the error of their ways and they want to counteract it.
I mean, a couple of things on this. One, you have to let them come back because a lot of the people that voted for Trump, especially back in 2016, voted for Obama twice. So, and I think a portion of those people stuck with him and became, maybe they didn't go super MAGA, but voted for him in 2016, 2020, and then again in 2024. And they might cite, hey, yeah, I didn't agree with the rhetoric or towards the immigrants, or I didn't agree with what he had to say about like to different leaders around the world, and I didn't like the social media posts. They can say they didn't like a lot of this stuff, but at the end of the day, he was good for my pocket. People like that can rationalize it like that. Unfortunately, you know, it, you will need them. You will need them. You are going to need their vote, and they are gettable. And going back to something in 2016, Bernie Sanders and Trump ran the same campaign. One was just featuring bigotry and that was pointing out, hey, your life is the reason it is because of this person, and that person. Bernie Sanders was saying, Your life is the way it is because the corporations and the system are against you. The voters wanted something different. If Bernie Sanders had won that primary and not Hillary Clinton and actually ran on a vision of a change in America, don't tell me Bernie Sanders wasn't going to win that election. And some of these people that voted for Trump would have voted for Bernie Sanders because Bernie Sanders didn't say the bad stuff that they didn't like and that they didn't agree with. Instead, Hillary Clinton ran, which everyone knew who she was, but Donald Trump was the wild card who was running on change. Granted, it featured bigotry and all the other things. However, he was promising something different. He was going to change the system. He was going to drain the swamp. That's what he was saying. So these people, I can see in 2016, these people voting for him and being duped. However, 2020, 2024, that's a different story. That's a completely different story. However, you can win these people back. If Donald Trump can win them 1, 2, or 3 times, a competent leader that's actually running on something that means something that's actually going to impact people's lives, they can definitely win them back. So I think you do have to make an attempt to get them back again, but you don't have to feature the bigotry. You don't have to you don't have to kowtow to their rhetoric on immigration, like the Democratic Party have been trying to do. Get a little more conservative on immigration, but you don't have to do that. Just run on a good economic message, and you can win them back.
Yeah, that's probably the smart thing to do. Um, and I will not actually ever say that you are not smarter than me. That's probably, and that's where as though, like we spoke about last week, where as though the correlation with even with people that's on the left, that is, when we talk about the difference between a liberal and a progressive, liberals and progressives have to work together hand in hand because many times as being a progressive, you have to push the liberal a little farther left on certain policies, whereas though a liberal person needs to actually rein in the progressive and say, well, this is what we need to do to be able to legislate and actually move forward. So we can't go that far. To, and I mean, you can see even when it comes to executive orders and a lot of the policies, this administration is pushing the envelope to be far, far right,
Yeah.
but it's getting dragged back to the middle. I mean, even coming out, I mean, if you seen yesterday that the inspector general for the military stated that it's actually illegal for them to use the term Department of War as the actual true legal branding of the department because his executive order only makes it where as though it's a secondary type. It's not a legal type. So they can, but it can't be on any of the branding. So they
Mm.
spent $2 billion on being for rebranding and using Department of War, and it has to be changed back. Everything has to be changed back.
Ain't that
They
something?
can't use it legally because executive order is not the law.
No.
And that's what I think one of the things that key points that we need to get to the audience. A lot of times, executive orders are like a direction. So basically, you can do that for like all your federal agencies. But when it comes to actually being something for the law and actually legal, it has to go through process, and a lot of times it has to be ratified by courts. That's
Hmm.
why they were fighting, like for instance, Biden wanting to put the student loan forgiveness.
Hmm.
You know, so you make an executive order and you can follow. It gives you some type of direction and to follow it, but that doesn't mean it's actually law. Um, but let's get into our, our initial engagement. You have some. Our initial engagement usually goes with some type of local things that's going on across the country. Or what you got for it this week, son?
Um, I think I have an interesting one. This one actually, it's local, but it's also national. So I want to talk about the World Cup that's coming to the Americas this summer. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is going to be hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico. It's going to go from like the middle of June to like the middle of July. And 11 cities across the country are going to host about 78 matches. It's like Atlanta, Boston, Dallas, um, uh, New Jersey slash New York, Philadelphia, San Francisco, LA. They're it's going to be a great time. A bunch of different countries represented all throughout the country. So it's going to be great that we're hosting an event like this. Just like the Olympics coming in 2028. It's fantastic for the country. It's fantastic for young people. It's for sports viewers. Just for everyone that this is happening. However, America is going to America. And so, starting here in February, ICE announced that they were going to be at the games, providing security in some capacity, but they didn't specifically state what it was that they're going to be doing. But they just said that they're going to be around. Which, again, what was happening in February? That's coming off the heels of both the shootings in Minnesota around the time, and all these different videos of people being like taken off of the street, taken out of buildings, out of homes, out of courts, out of different places all over the place, just taken off of the streets, and it just didn't look good. And for you to come out and say, "Hey, we know all these people are coming into the country, to watch these games, but we're going to be outside. The people that are wearing masks and doing all these things, yeah, we're gonna be there." Like, come on, why would you do that? Why would you do that? So FIFA actually asked that the Trump administration pause, some of these immigration raids during the games, and which I think he actually might do it because a couple of months ago, FIFA came up with a fake peace prize that they gave Trump because he was like really campaigning so hard for the Nobel Peace Prize for some reason. Because like, why would you get it? But anyway, when he didn't get it, it went to the president of Mexico instead. When he didn't get it, he decided that. FIFA was going to give it to him. So I wouldn't be surprised if, in exchange for that he does pause it during the times. But the real reason I wanted to talk about it is because the price for these games and almost everything that's going to come associated with it, it's going to price out the people that actually want to be there, the real fans. So they're doing some dynamic pricing, meaning like it's going to change depending on the demand for the game, what city you're in, basically who's playing, all of that stuff. So what they did is they released tickets in phases, and they had like different categories, so like different sections of the stadiums where you could sit. The people who bought tickets, you bought it in the category, but you wouldn't buy the actual seats, so they would assign the seat later on. Many people who bought these tickets, they found that they paid a whole bunch of money for these tickets, and then now they're being moved to like places like in the corner, or they're going to be like behind the goalpost, or they're like farther back than they thought that they would be. And why? It's because now FIFA is coming out with like specific like sections where they're selling for like crazy amounts of money, because again, it's just going to come to who can afford to be there. And unfortunately, not people who again actually work 9 to 5s, people that actually have families to support. Most people aren't able to afford the price of $1,000 tickets. The price for the finals match in Qatar in 2022 was about $1,600. Tickets for the finals match is taking place in New Jersey, over in Rutherford. It's going to be about $11,000.
Mm,
That's absolutely
mm,
ridiculous. And what they're finding is that a whole bunch of tickets for at least a third of these matches, going to be about 72 matches that take place in the continental United States. And that's going to be like a third of those tickets still haven't been sold, because who the hell is paying for that? And there's a whole bunch of hospitality package, that include a whole bunch of different giveaways and all that kind of stuff. Though also those remain unsold. Last month, 69 members of Congress, they sent a letter to FIFA urging them to reduce their prices because, again, people that like have been looking forward to the America hosting this, people that would be flying in, paying flights, paying the price for international flights, paying the price of hotels, of food, of transportation to get around, to have to pay thousands of dollars for tickets to the games on top of that. Nah, that's absolutely ridiculous. And the real reason I wanted to touch on this because I just saw that um, the New Jersey Transit from leaving from Penn Station and in New York, it's going to cost $100. It's going to cost $100 to get over to the stadium, and it's usually $13. And that $100 is going to be a flat rate, so it doesn't matter if you're a kid, it doesn't matter if you're a senior, it doesn't matter if you're disabled. And they're also going to be closing down parts of Penn Station for only people that are going to the game. So people that, and some of these games, again, this is the summertime, so work is still happening. Even if schools are out, work is still happening. So some of these games are taking place during like the work week, and people who actually like commute using New Jersey Transit into New York, they're not going to be able to get home, or it's going to cost extraordinarily a lot to get there. It's just absolutely crazy. And it's not just New York; it's also happening in Boston. Tickets to get to the stadium from Boston is going to be $80, and it's usually $20. It's absolutely ridiculous. And if you want to drive to the stadium, it's going to cost you $225 to park there. I just think it's ridiculous that you're pricing fans, you're pricing the country, you're pricing the people who are flying here to watch these games out of the experience of actually being there to watch them. And of course, eventually once we get to the games, are the stadiums going to be full? Sure, they will be, but imagine the amount of money that people have to put up to be there, because this is for a lot. Some people, this could be a once in a lifetime kind of thing. How like who knows when else another time that you're going to get a World Cup here. So some of these people who, especially if you've been here for years, your family's immigrated from Paraguay, your family's immigrated from Poland, from all the and they're coming here to represent your country, and you want to go and show out for your country, for your heritage, your culture, and you're unable to do that. It's just absolutely unbelievable. But of course, that's what would happen in this country. Of course, we would do that. And it's again, I just say I can only say it's ridiculous because that is what it is. But it's laughable. But it's also not that surprising because, like, of course, we would do that.
Yeah, I just got with of this either yesterday or 2 days ago. And then the explanation that I found out when I was listening to a pod, they were saying the state FIBA basically collects all the money.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for like the hosting cities to get type of revenue is through like the lodging and the activities around the game.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, and I think Mikey Sherrill is
Yep.
trying to do something about the dynamics of the New Jersey Transit. Um, and I believe he's working with Mayor Mondani over it too, but to try to bring the price down. But the only way that the actual municipality can make any type of money is by the transportation and
Mm-hmm.
by the house, and then because you already know um, the hotel fees, the prices is just going to be astronomical
Yep.
to stay anywhere in the city or around the city. And on top of that, uh, now if you even go through a like an Airbnb situation, then
Mm-hmm.
the private owners are going to be gouging the price because supply and demand. I mean, the fact of capitalism, it's just based on how much money can I get.
Mm-hmm.
If I price somebody out, somebody's going to pay it no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care if the average Tom, Dick, and Harry is not, they won't be able to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried about, you know, getting this buck. And I mean, it's sad because, like you said, it is a once in a lifetime thing. And because, for instance, like you stated, but with this country, people are from everywhere.
Hmm.
So every uh majority of every team is has representative people within the country. So and they may
Hmm.
live locally or somewhere close to where because they're going to basically all the hot spots in major
Hmm.
cities. So
Yeah.
so they'll be able they would be able to get representation even like once this one and that one gets knocked out,
Hmm.
and it moves on. So they move on to another city. Now those people that's in that area are going to go, yeah, it's just
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm not surprised, just like you said, I'm not surprised because United States is just the way it is. I mean, and I want to actually decipher one thing, and when we constantly say America, and we're talking about the United States, but America is the con. I
Yeah.
mean, this thing is not happening in Canada. This thing is not happening these games that they're having in Mexico. This
Hmm.
thing is happening in the United States. So, and to be honest, this country is so far behind, and with their enthusiasm with soccer in the World
Hmm.
Cup, because literally the American team is horrible. And I
Yeah.
mean, and it's not like it's for your generation and generations underneath you. It's more prevalent. Like me growing up, soccer was soccer. It wasn't, and it wasn't like something that you were actually really like tried to play and anything like that. Um, so it's like the new kid on the block for Americans. And one of the reasons why it is such it's the world's game is because all you need is just a ball
Yep.
and just run around.
Hmm.
So it's inexpensive. And they taken the true love and of the game away for financial gain. And I did also see that um, your mayor actually banned all like large gatherings during that time um, because well, Newsmax made it seem like, of course, it was
Hmm.
Newsmax.
Yeah.
They made it seem like it was a negative, and it was making it where as though people won't be able to gather to watch, the FIFA. But actually, it was a recommendation from the NYPD because they said they wouldn't actually have the manpower to actually make Times Square secure enough to have all
Hmm.
those people there.
Yeah.
So it would strain them so they wouldn't be able to cover the other municipalities throughout the city. Um, but a lot of times they they don't tell you the whole story. They cut it
Of
and make it
course.
make it so whereas though you don't actually it makes it into a negative instead of actually the mayor doing his job and protecting his people in his city
Hmm.
because it would just be too much of a promotion and to have and it would drain the resources from all five boroughs.
Hmm.
Um, with that, I kind of cheated also. I because we we often say the saying is all politics are local whenever. I actually have an international story that actually would becomes very interesting here in this country. But over the weekend, Viktor Orban, who was the minister of Hungary, actually conceded his race. And this was very interesting because Viktor Orban had been in power for the last 16 years.
Hmm.
And so, whereas though in many other places they don't have term limits, so he ruled with basically an iron fist for 16 years. He was actually in control for a total of 20. It's crazy because, like, okay, like many politicians, when he was younger, he actually founded, I think it's pronounced Fidesz,
The
the
Fidesz, yeah.
Fidesz party, and he was what you would consider a liberal Democrat. And this was when he was in college, because it always seems like they say, when you're in college, you're a liberal, and when you grow up and become an adult, you become conservative. Well, it didn't happen with me, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things. So, but when he came back into power, and he reigned from 2010 to 2026, he changed the whole structure of the party, and now he was conservative and far to the right, and he actually put in place what they call the illiberal party. Whereas though now, now listen to the description, everybody. This party was based on family values, Christianity, and he was he is very anti-immigrant. Whereas though he is um, coming into power became a blueprint for the conservative movements across the world. He's very and the interesting thing that I found very interesting about Hungary, when you have first he was anti-Soviet Union when he was first in office, and now over the years he's become very pal with Russia and China.
Hmm.
He even enacted a wall fence on their southern border when it was a big immigration push in Europe in 2015. And because he had a supermajority, the rules in Hungary, if you have a supermajority, you can change your constitution. So it's basically a what they would call a living document. If you have, and it's based on delegates. So if you have over 133 delegates, then you have a supermajority from your party, and now you can rewrite the Constitution. So he did this. Listen to how it sounds familiar. Whereas though he took over all the media in the country gave him positive news and positive, basically a mouthpiece for the government. And most of what he did too is he made a lot of, listen to this, anti-LGBT legislation. And he was pushed on traditional family values because he said this was a country of Christianity and actually gave tax incentives to people to live this traditional Christian family life. So basically paying people to be this way and to live this way. Now he was ousted by actually a person that was a part of his party. But he kind of just like many people felt as though he has been in power too long and he was just basically being illiberal. Whereas though I'm based he was trying to make Hungary into a pseudo Christian nationalist society. These are the same things that's happening right here on a regular basis. To the point where as though JD Vance actually went to Hungary a week before the election, stomping for him.
Hmm.
When when Trump came into office, he said he wanted to be like Viktor Orban. Many of many of the quote unquote conservative leaders throughout the world looked at Viktor Orban as the gold standard because they wanted to turn the clock back because they felt as though people were trying to get too many rights and they didn't want to deal with the aspects of not following Christian doctrine. So many of the Republicans in this country follow Viktor Orban is the reason why you have Mac. Viktor Orban and people like him are the reason why that Christian nationalism is rising in this country. And his defeat is a beacon to what can happen once that regime falls. Now, don't get me wrong. The person that's going to be in charge now is still center right, but he's what you would call what we used to call a moderate Republican. He's for social libertation. So whereas though having people actually live their lives. So it is actually a win. And it was based on, as we spoke about earlier when I asked you about if it's possible to let these people back in, it was a coalition of people
Hmm.
on the left and the right in the middle getting out of quote unquote, you know, an oligarch, a, a, a wannabe dictator, a wannabe king after 16 years of reign. So I think that was a positive and actually you can take those that's the little seed that can actually grow throughout the world.
Yeah. Well, two things to piggyback off of there. I think that election and also um, Jair Bolsonaro, who lost his election in Brazil a couple of years ago, who basically also Brazilian Trump. Same thing. That it does give you hope that we can overcome these demagogues and these people who just completely take over our politics and our culture. But also, it's very funny because just like you said, JD Vance went over there stomping for him, and it's like these people they're such jokes because the next week after he went over there and did that, he's over here talking to the Pope, telling the Pope not to get involved in American politics. The Pope that's from Chicago, by the way, and not to get involved in our elections. Also, in the midst of them exploring regime change in Iran. So it's like, don't get involved in our politics, but we're going to get involved in the politics and the governments and the affairs of everywhere else in the world because we can. It's just laughable.
It's very hypocritical.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't even want to touch that JD Vance and the Pope thing because I think we could just do a whole show on uh, Christian nationalists versus Catholics
Yeah.
and the war that is actually going on, that's actually have been going on forever, because Christian nationalists don't believe Catholics are actually Christians, and that's their belief system. But we would have to do a truly deep dive into get into that, because actually, when John F. Kennedy was actually, it was a big deal that John F. Kennedy got voted to become president because he was the first Catholic in
Yeah.
this country that was voted president. And actually, because when immigration and Ellis Island and all those times, it was an influx of people from Europe and an influx of the Irish and you know, Italians and things like that, and they were Catholic. You know, so it was like they were they were low in the totem pole
Hmm.
because it wasn't solidarity and whiteness yet. So they needed somebody to hit on. And over the years, before they could actually hate on, people because of their skin color, people who fought wars and they were divided by their religious thoughts. So, but
Hmm.
we need to get on that, because that is a real rising tide in the United States with the fights. Even Keg's breath actually was
Yeah.
he didn't allow I think was it during Easter, was it a couple weeks ago or something? He didn't allow uh a Catholic. It wasn't no it used to be a non-denominational service, but he wouldn't allow any Catholic worship in the chapel.
Oh, I
And
didn't see that part. Interesting.
yeah, yeah. It's it's a lot of crazy things going on. I don't foresee him being in that position much longer. Maybe
No,
he'll actually. Well, that's part of the reason why he fired the
Christy Nome,
no
Pam Bondi.
Hegseth. Well, no, when he fired the general, the army general,
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
because he's the one person that has to sign off on boots to the ground,
Yep.
and he refused orders from Hexbreath not to. He put up um, women and minorities, put up four people for promotion, and
Hmm.
it was like women and two black people, and Hexbreath just kept on denying and pushing it down because he's on that DEI's,
Hmm.
and that's not how it works in the military. They were comparable. They were senior. They had the tenure, and they should have
Hmm.
got promoted. But they weren't a white man, a mediocre white man. So he didn't want them to get, you
So
know,
you don't make the cut.
yeah, they didn't qualify because they didn't work weekends for Fox before they got their job. So that's what happened. Not too much. You have anything for capital gains? Anything's going on? I ain't really not too much was going on this week because they weren't really in session.
No, there was something, but I think I'm gonna touch on it as my, my closing statement.
So let's go into the big thing for the day. Our big topic of the day, which actually I'm gonna have you take the lead because this was your passion baby for this week. So what we got? What we talking about?
Yeah, so coming off of what I was talking about when talking about the World Cup, and of course everything, everything's about the mighty dollar, and it's things are getting more and more expensive, and just regular life, the ability to just live, to get around, to be educated, to get food, everything is increasing in price, and that's because of the country you live in, the system that we live in, and that's capitalism, and the idea of capital is not it there's capitalistic elements around the world. So when the America first people tell you, America is great because of capitalism, or like this is what truly makes America great because it allows any and everyone to become rich. No, that's not true. And also, there's billionaires, there's millionaires in other countries as well, in Canada, over in Europe, all over the place. This system is designed for a handful of people, a select group of people, to flourish, and that's people that already have power and that already have money and wealth. Occasionally, people are going to slip through the cracks, and they're going to be successful. It does happen. It will happen. It is possible, but that's the lottery effect. That's what they want you to hold on to. And so, just to preview it, they don't want you to succeed. It's not possible for you to succeed. They stack the deck against you. Going hand in hand with what I talked about the first show, money in politics is also the death of this country. The corporations, the successful businesses, millionaires to billionaires, they own politics. So they own policy. They own day to day life. They own the grocery stores. They own housing. They own everything. They're setting up a system for you to make it impossible for you to own homes, to make it harder to be educated. And again, and that's an incentive of the system. And it's a shame that there's people in elective office who are holding on to this, and those are part of the people who they benefit from the system. So why would they want to change it? And I'll let you get into it because I want to get into the second part of it, or a little deeper. But I just wanted to just preview it like that, and it's just, uh, yeah, it's a lot. Go ahead.
Well, you already know, over the years how I railed against the system. I, I am anti-capitalism. Um, and the reason that often I came to this point uh, years ago is because I realized that capitalism is a system for individuals. This country also always sells the fact that they talk about this bootstrap mentality, this hustle mentality, where as though you can get it go and you can be an entrepreneur and you can actually, build something. Is that true? And the concept, it is possible. Like you say, people slip through the cracks, but the system itself is not designed for that. Uh, you made the joke over the Easter break when you said when you spoke to one of your somebody, one of your people, counselors or whatever, and they said something about a credit card, and you
Yeah.
you stated like, I don't know, credit score. I got my sisters are older than credit scores, so
Yeah.
you don't believe. And I had to chuckle because I'm pretty sure I said something about that to you at some point. But it's like it's all a scam. It was just another way to keep people down.
Hmm.
Um, when you go red line, uh, you go when you say credit scores and actually these things that you are needed to actually succeed. These things were not in place before.
Hmm.
So every time somebody would get an upper hand, they figured out a system to make it hard for the average person. So ultimately, it goes down to, like you said, people that already have some type of power or something that's getting passed down to them.
Hmm.
But people that look like you and me are always been on the bottom end because the system was in place to stop them from having the part of the ism that's important, which is capital.
Hmm.
All of this is zeros and ones, and it's all fake. A lot of people that have this type of money, quote unquote, they actually have they don't have the cash money. They have assets. They have capital. When you try to actually make a come up, you have to go to a bank to try to get a loan and to try to get this capital. And it's harder because now we go on about your credit score,
Hmm.
your risk factor. Where's this business going to be at? You know, what are you talking about? What do you have for collateral? How do we know we're going to be able to get, this loan repaid? The system is actually designed whereas though in order to succeed the real in big ways, and we often say this all the time, there is no person that is a billionaire that hasn't fucked somebody over at some
Yeah, impossible.
in a sense, whereas though even if you look at it in a sense whereas though uh, if you look like people that look like us, if they are like an athlete or in entertainment or something like that, the record industry is filled with bad record deals that screws over the daggone performers. Just a couple shoot, just a couple weeks ago, Gucci Man got ran up on and by one of
Yeah,
his people that
yeah,
when he signed and basically put a gun to him to just let him out of his deal because he was getting screwed. You know,
yeah.
that's the point to where people are getting to. You know, Uh, it's an individual thing, and you can say do the right thing, work hard, and good things will come to you. But this all this has been done with deregulation over the last 45 years since the this is you guys sold the trickle down theories start with Ronald
Hmm.
Reagan. And when they start doing all these tax breaks and all
Hmm.
deregulation to have guardrails, it made it where as though venture capitalists can actually exist.
Hmm.
Let me explain something to you, listeners. There were no such thing as hedge funds 30, 40 years ago. There was no, your job was just to buy something and deconstruct it and break it down for its parts and make money off of it. A venture capitalist has never made any industry better.
Hmm.
Their whole thought is capitalism. What can I get to make it liquid money from its entity? And there's no winners except for the people that's in the top.
Hmm.
The stock exchange is fake. All these things that's been going on with the incursion, the little scuffle,
Hmm.
the little whatever you want to call, because they can't call it a war.
No.
It fluctuates to make the market. It's been fluctuating to make the markets go left and right, and somebody's making money off of it.
Hmm.
Somebody made money off of COVID,
Of course.
and a lot of times it's the people that are representatives. You you know that representatives wind up putting in mad investments in Zoom before the pandemic because
Hmm.
they foreseen that this was happening and that everybody was going to be doing what we're doing right now.
Hmm.
These blockages and things that's going on with oil and the prices and things like that. I saw a video the other day. I don't know. I don't count it as being 100% true, but supposedly Saudi Arabia actually has a pipeline that actually flows around the Strait of Hormuz, and they've been building it for the last 50 years because they were anticipating that this may happen with Iran.
I gotta look. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Um, but it makes sense. Do you know this is how capitalism, and I know you got another point, but I want people to look this up. Texas is Saudi Arabia. Hear me when I say this. The state of Texas, that's in the United States of America, is Saudi Arabia. Texas has 30% of the world's oil. Why does Texas look like a third world country? Now, I'm not talking about the big cities and things like that, but it's a lot of small towns, and Texas is poor. They
Hmm.
have one of the worst in education, one of the worst when it comes to health, and it has the one of the worst power grids in history. But they have 30% of the oil. And unlike Saudi Arabia, that's beautiful and majestic and has all these big buildings and go this, that, they hoard the money. There's plenty of Texas millionaires and billionaires, but with no state income tax and all these deferments and everything for the rich, it doesn't fall down to the people. It's no way Texas should be the way it is with the wealth that it has, the economy
Hmm.
that it has. But that's capitalism.
Hmm.
That's greed. Ultimately. What was your second point?
No, just like you said, it is. And going back to a point you made, they said, no, if you just work hard, you'll make it in this country. Just like you said, if you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you're gonna make it. And they made the American dream seem so obtainable, but yet behind the scenes, meaning in Congress and through legislation, they're making it harder and harder for that to happen. There's no reason why people who are working multiple jobs should still be struggling to pay rent, should still be struggling to put food on the table. That's absolutely abhorrent. And it's gross. And again, in the largest and the most successful economy in the history of the country, of the world, of Earth. And again, and it's crazy because everything is a choice. We choose to have all of this. Money is not, it does not exist in nature. It is not like, it is not natural. We made it up. And so we choose to have the system that we have where the corporations, yeah, we can go ahead and inject millions and billions of dollars into the economy, giving it to the corporations. But for average people, no. We bicker over stimulus checks, over student loan forgiveness, anything that benefits actual people, social programs. Anytime a Republican goes into office, there's always tax cuts and a cut to social welfare programs that benefit everyone. It doesn't. It's not like it's going to people who are here illegally are not on SNAP. People who are here illegally, they are not qualifying for these social welfare programs. They're not. So when they cut it, they're taking money out of the pockets of Americans, food off of the plates of children. That's what they're doing. 30 million people unemployed, over 700,000 people homeless. 38 million people living below the poverty line. It's absolutely crazy. The idea of the American dream, and it shifted from the lawn with the house and the picket fence to I just hope that I'm going to try work my hardest to provide for my family, and hopefully my children have a better life than I did, can be a little more successful than I did. And that's not the way it should be. Again, in the most successful economy and the richest country in the history of the world, it shouldn't be like that. um, it, it it's just absolutely crazy the amount of people who live in paycheck to paycheck. There's over 1100 billionaires. Do you know how much $1 billion is? That's a lot. I saw something the other day. It said like a million seconds is like 11 days. A billion seconds is over like 31 years. So the difference between a million and a billion is crazy. So the fact that there's that many people that have a billion, and it's not just, oh, he has 1 billion, he has 2 billion. We're talking about people that have 60, 100, 350 billion dollars. What kind of system allows for 700,000 people to be homeless and for there to be somebody that has $350 billion? It's absolutely gross. And the only reason that we have it is because the politicians, who should be the ones to change this, they're in bed with the corporations and the people who are benefiting from the system. They themselves, like you mentioned, that who corrupt, which another topic, corruption and politics and insider trading, they're making money off of this, off of people suffering. They are, and they could do something about it. They could legislate on it. They could take money out of politics. They could vote on it. They could, but they're not going to put that up because they're too deep in the pockets of the corporations. They're too deep in the pockets of these people who, again, who are benefiting off of you struggling. It doesn't matter how hard you work because at the end of the day, you're not going to reach the level that we're at. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying, and they're being rewarded. And they're being rewarded. And going on to the second part, it's also allowed being allowed to just continue because there's a lot of people who they're okay with this system because even if they're not currently benefiting from it, they believe that one day it's going to be them. If I just work hard enough, yeah, I can start that business that's going to give me to $1 million, $1 billion, and I can be that. So no, we shouldn't be taxing the rich. We shouldn't be raising the corporate tax rate. We shouldn't do that because why should we be stifling business? Why should we make why should we be punishing success? That's what they like to say. Why should we be punishing success? That's not what it is. Getting these millionaires, getting the corporations to pay their fair share. That's not punishing success. That's not what that is. And the fact that there's so many different people that don't benefit from the system, that their lives are where they are because of the system, because of the corporation, because of the politicians refusing to actually work on behalf of working people, the working class, the middle class, families. The fact that they continue to prop up a system, they continue to support the system that's keeping them down, to be against policies that, again, would fund the programs that would help them to get to where they want their lives to be. And it's just absolutely abhorrent. So before I continue to go, if you have anything to add to that.
With that, basically, the law that was passed was the Citizens United. When
Mhm.
it basically Citizens United, they went to Supreme Court. Uh, I don't have the year. Sorry about that. It stopped in my head. I don't have the year right here. But it basically said that corporations were people.
2010.
So 2010, okay, good. So it said, and again, this was a reaction to Barack Obama being elected president and using that new system of small donors to counteract. Because before Citizens United, it was a cap. It was a dollar amount of cap that any individual could actually donate to a candidate. So now these PACs, these political action group committees, sorry, could actually run up the total. And then came in the people like the Heritage Fund and the Koch brothers, who
Hmm.
just spent a bunch of money getting Republicans elected because right because if you flood the airways and you flood advertisement, you flood the lawn signs and everything, people who are not deep into this thing, they just vote for like based on name recognition or they seen somebody's picture at a on a park bench or something like that. But this corporate money got into politics, so whereas though now the most important people were the lobbyists. The most important people in politics are the people that's trying to maneuver with the money and get somebody elected.
Hmm.
And actually, something can be done. Actually, Montana's started to do something to get the because it's kind of a loophole in the law, whereas though if you ban, if you set a cap in the state and you ban corporate money, then then those tax can't operate in your state.
Hmm.
Montana's actually trying to pass a law, put it in their constitution right now. And I suggest that literally all other states need to follow that because it needs to be some type of, it's the only way it can be fair.
Hmm.
Your elections are not fair. And I'm not sitting here like with these Republicans saying the elections are being stolen and people, the wrong, illegal people are voting and things like that. No,
Yeah.
I'm saying elections are being stolen by in the front door by with just by money.
Hmm.
They are basically pricing, just like when you talk about pricing the average person out of trying to get to the World Cup, they are pricing people out of politics. They're
Hmm.
pricing people out of their representation. And the bottom line is it should be rules that set forth. And I can foresee it coming, but whereas though politicians can't accept one one thing that they tried to do that I think they tried to make it where as though politicians when they're in office they can't they can't trade on the stock exchange and things of that nature. And I
Yeah.
mean, it used to be like a unwritten rule that's been thrown out because this president just does away from all the norms. You used to have to put your money on the side and not
Hmm.
actually, do business. You put your money in the trust and you couldn't
Yeah.
do business while the time that you were president. You know, it used to be time where as though president couldn't even have a damn cell phone. It was, but ultimately, this beats this experiment with this economic system. It it's been broken. It used to be like you said about the white picket fence, and you had a good job. You don't have there are no pensions anymore. It's been an attack on the working class, and basically the middle class has been decimated and destroyed
Hmm.
because it used to be where as though you can get a nice job. You working for the railroad, work at the post office, you work, you got your state job, and you were set. But see, inflation and prices of everything is going up. But guess what? Minimum wage been 7.25 since 2009.
Hmm.
And I'm this callback, but I'm going to keep on telling people this. 7.25. That's the minimum wage. You understand? That's not livable.
Anywhere.
And when people constantly talk about, you know, go get a job, stop stop living off the cheap of America, stop living off my tax money. Tell that to Walmart.
Hmm.
Tell that to Target. These corporations that have employees that's making money over hands and fists because what? But their employees are on social services and they
Hmm.
work 40 hours a week because they ain't paying the livable wage. Because the Waltons got to go buy the Denver Broncos
Hmm.
for $425 million. And one of them Waltons got to be married to a Cronky. They got the LA Rams and got the Colorado Avalanche. Money marrying money.
Hmm.
But their employees is on Snap.
Yep.
The the corporations are on the teeth of America. And they not paying any taxes because they create jobs.
Low paying jobs at that, and that's the thing, and that's it. They say that they're against handouts, but that's what they do. Amazon, when they announced that they were looking for a second headquarters, and it was at a time where I had just moved up to New York City. It was my first year here. It was my freshman year over at St. John's. And I'll never forget. It was a nationwide search for where's our next headquarters going to be. Cities left and right are throwing, hey, we'll give you this tax break, we'll give you these subsidies, build it for free. All over the place, different offers coming in. They were going to build it in Queens. And it was a very big thing because again, AOC had just came into office. It was one of her first things that she was like railing against, and it was Amazon building this headquarters there because they were saying, "Hey, we're going to add hundreds of thousands of jobs. We're going to build a nice park, and we're going to build like a nice entertainment and like housing district um, around the headquarters." But the amount of money that they were going to get from that compared to the jobs that they want to bring in, it wasn't like, hey, a whole bunch of 100,000 people who lived in the community are going to get jobs. No, that's not what it was. It was you're going to get college graduates, people who are moving here, whether internationally or coming from other states, who go to the colleges, who were educated in another state and came here just for like a tech job, for office jobs. The New Yorkers, the people that lived in the area, the people that you're going to price out of the area who had lived there for generations, those people, they were going to clean the sidewalks. They were going to be janitors, custodial staff. They were going to work in the kitchens. They were going to work in maintenance. That's what they were going to do. And so it wasn't going to be that lucrative. And that's what you're seeing. They end up choosing, was it in Virginia, where they end up putting their second headquarters? And I recently saw something. They failed to add jobs last year. Zero. They didn't hire anyone. And they're talking about we're going to add hundreds of thousands of jobs. Imagine if they came to New York City, the amount of people that would have been priced out of their living situation just for a headquarters that wasn't going to hire them, that wasn't going to add jobs. That would just cause nothing but destruction. But that's the system. That's capitalism. They could have used all these cities. They're saying, hey, we're going to give you these subsidies. We're going to give you this money. What if you use that money for your people? What if you use that money for the people, for social programs, community restoration, housing, education? What if you use that for actual working people to make their lives a little easier? That's a different kind of handout. And that's not a handout that's acceptable in this country. And that shouldn't be the case at all. And again, going back to money in politics, if you say that corporations have a say and that money is speech, if you say that money is speech, then you're saying that only a few people have a voice. And that's not what this country is supposed to be about from its roots, from its foundation. Given all the bigotry, given all the hatred, everything that has happened throughout the history of this country, at the root of it, you're supposed to have a say. You're supposed to have a voice. That's why, just like you had mentioned, it's in the first thing that's in the Constitution is freedom of religion. It's also freedom of speech, and that is for everyone. And if you say that money is speech, everyone doesn't have that. Everyone doesn't have the level of money that gets you in the spaces to be at the inauguration with the President of the United States. That has Congress people answering your call the second that your name pops up on their phone. People don't have that kind of money. People don't. And the further that we allow this system to continue, the more and more people who are going to fall into poverty, the more and more people who are going to see their livelihoods taken away, the more and more people who are going to see the current people who have money get more money. The middle class, just like you said, it used to be one job, one good job, whether it's a union job, a pension job. You got a house, you got a car, you can go on trips, you can afford to send your kids to school, all that stuff. You can't do that anymore. You can't do that anymore. And the fact that you're pricing so many people out of, just like we said, it was the World Cup, but not out of a living experience. That's what you're doing. You're pricing them out of everyday life. And then, not to mention, you add on top of it, we're just going to bomb the Middle East again. Gas prices going to go up again. Let's add all these data centers to your communities. Utility bills going up again. Quality of life going down. But it's about money. It's not about your life. It's not about your situation. Even just like you said, capitalism is an individualistic system, but it's not about you. It's about me and my friends. And that's why you got to get money out of politics, because the longer that you have politicians who are benefiting from the system, who are getting money from these corporations, getting money from these billionaires to make sure that you don't pass policies that are going to even level the playing field, that's going to tax them their fair share to make sure that happens. The longer that we have that, the longer that this is going to continue. Less and less people are going to have the opportunity to achieve the American dream, whatever version of their American dream it is. It's going to be relatively impossible.
To add on to that, I was looking at something today, gathering my notes for this show tonight. And I hear a lot, it's talking points. And I want people to realize these are talking that the top 1% pays 40% of the taxes in this country. They pay 40%. But them paying 40% of the taxes that are collected in this country are only 1.7% of their wealth. Whereas though that me and you pay 10% of our income to federal taxes, to Medicare, and to Social Security. So he said the number was $882 billion that the top 1% pay in taxes. But that doesn't actually calculate their actual capital gains and the money that they flow in. And because of these loopholes that they had, they only paid 1%. That 1.7%. That 882 billion is on $52 trillion worth of capital.
Mm.
They're not paying their fair share. They're not paying 10%. The corporate tax rate is ridiculously low. The tax breaks that these companies get is obnoxious. And again, to follow up what you're saying, which is so totally true, because I'm part of that machine. When you got a job and you are a third party independent contractor, it's somebody that is servicing,
Mhm.
maintenance, cleaning, cooking, landscaping. I mean, a lot of times in the areas they are importing the actual people from other states, or they travel from other states to work at that particular corporation. So they didn't create substantial wealth jobs. They created the clock in, clock out jobs,
Mhm.
you know, which it's just the same thing as, what's the mice on the wheel or whatever, you just
Mhm.
running in circles and still. As many times as people that have good jobs that's making or semi good jobs that's making, over 20 something. Yo,
Mhm.
20 something dollars an hour it ain't shit no more, When I was your age, 20 something, 20, you was making 20, $25 an hour. When I was your age, that was good money.
Mhm.
We had a big house.
Yeah.
Everybody had their own room and TV, birthday party, 3 cars, you know?
Mhm.
None of that shit. In a matter of all that went sideways in 20 years, less
Mhm.
than 20 years. Because where's the mom and pop stores? Huh?
Online.
Yeah, barely.
Yeah. If that.
The three, four, five, whatever it is, everything's corporate. Everything's been blown up. And when you do come up with an ideal, and you do come up with something that's innovative and something that moves, you get bored out or you sell out.
Mhm.
You sell
And they
out.
make it
Or
worse.
they go and get sometimes people create this ideal and things so they can get bored out, so they can
Mhm.
get the money. Individualism.
Mhm.
It's to the point where as though I get so upset when I talk to people in your generation because they just fell into a lot of them fall into the capitalism field
Mhm.
where they just grind. And it's just like, when's enough? But it's never enough
Never.
because of this. You see something on social media, you see somebody living a certain lifestyle, and now you trying to attack it. You trying to get
Mhm.
to it, and you trying to chase it. Where's the happiness in that? You fall prey to the system. And when you talk about voting and you vote in for, I can't understand how a working class person or even a middle class person, if you're making six figures,
Mhm.
why in the hell would you ask to be pro giving millionaire and billionaires tax cuts? With the It's still stuck on this fallacy that one day I'm going to be up there, so I want to pay less taxes.
Mhm.
Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes stated in 1904, taxes is the cost for a civilized society. It is our duty in order to have public and social equity to have taxes.
Mhm.
Benjamin Franklin said in 1789, only two things is definite: death and taxes. When you take the tax base away, you run up the debt, and you don't. If your city, your state, your local, and your federal government is not making money, bringing in revenue, everything with any type of social programs fall apart. But we always have money for war.
Of course.
Think about that. Think about that.
And going off of that, it's something I had shared. Was it like or on our first show, that press conference where Trump was saying the federal government can't do childcare.
No.
We can't do childcare. We can't do healthcare. We can't do educate. We can't do things that will tangibly improve your life. We can't do things that would actually benefit and help improve material conditions. All we can do is fund endless war. All we can do is endlessly bomb the Middle East. All we can do is regime change. All we can do is give money to corporations. That's all we can do, and that's the and again, it's not specific to party. Donald Trump and the Republicans are in power now, but again, the Democrats are in bed with these same people. The same people. They give money to everybody. They give money to everyone. And so, and yet, again, that's just it's the system. It's not the people who are currently in power. Simply voting in a Democrat is not going to change this. It needs to be a specific type of candidate that runs. And just like you said, a lot has changed in the last 20 years, where before $25 an hour could have been able to provide for a family and all that stuff. Clearly, that's not the situation anymore. But just look at how fast things are accelerating right now with AI. Touching back on something else you had said, talking briefly touched on the corporate tax rates. Corporate tax rate was 35% before 2017. Donald Trump went in with that jobs cut and tax act, cut it down to 21%. Joe Biden floated, increasing it, but it was only to what was it, 25 or 27%?
27%.
To 27%, not back to where it was. What do you think that extra percentage, that all that money, what do you think these corporations have been doing with that? It allows them to invest in AI and innovate, to see how can we further make more money? How can we cut our workforce, cut labor costs, cut different costs? So they allowed them to invest in AI. So when you talk about things accelerating and the economy being different compared to 20 years ago, man, who's to say what it's going to look like in 5, 10 years? I mean, with the kind of jobs that AI could take: truck driving, administrative work, just like tedious task, factory work, those kind of things that could be automated just like that. And that's why you need to be worried about these data centers that are popping up. That's why you need to be worried about any and everything that has to do with AI. You need to be worried about legislation that's going on with AI, regulation that's going on with these companies, because it is literally going to end jobs for millions of people, for millions of them. I just saw a video the other day where, and it's funny because I hope it wasn't AI, and that's what you got to say in this age. Is that you got to hope something is real, because who knows? The AI is catching up. So people could conflate something that's AI with something that's real. But it was a video of factory workers, and they were in head cameras that was studying the patterns with their hands, so that eventually AI can go in and take their jobs, so that they can be the machines can be the ones that are now making it working in the sweatshops, over in the Asian countries. And that's what they're going to do. That's what they're working towards. They want to make this a word. And if you listen to any of these AI people talk, you listen to any of them open their mouth. What's his name? Sam Altman. Any of these people, Elon, any of these people, they don't look at humans as people, as humans. They don't. We are expendable. Especially because we do not have money. We are not wealthy. If you are not that, then you're definitely not human. So they look at you as other. You can be replaced. Talking about putting your like inserting your mind into a chip and now you just live digitally in the sphere. What are you talking about? Just listen to them talk. That's what they think of you because they reached a different cycle or different sphere of living. That's where they're at. So they're worried about how can we change humanity, not just our current time. How can we change humanity? That's what they're worried about
They
in their
don't
own
have
pockets.
humanity.
They don't know.
They don't have humanity. With that point, where I work at, somebody stated to me about a year ago, was talking about the interns that were coming into the company. And he said, I'm working on an AI program. In 5 years, we won't need any. And I just made me stop and look. And I looked at him. I said, so your job is to make something to put people out of work. And he's a 20 something.
Hmm.
And he was just like, the industry, people are culpable in this shit. People are culpable to where as though you get a cut, you got you a 6 figure job, you live in a little comfort, but literally you screwing other people in the next generation.
Hmm.
And they okay with it because they making money.
Yep.
I also had a conversation, and we need to move on. We running low. But I had a conversation. I study other economic systems, and I study European, and I'm and how they talk about the 4 day work week,
Hmm.
um, and then having 6 weeks vacation and things like that. And I had just talking. I was talking to this about another person who is a 20 something, might be 30 now, whatever. Just a couple of years ago at the job, and I work at a tech place. It's just so there people know. And it was just like, oh, I wouldn't want to do that. It's like, why not? And it was just like, you can't make no money doing it that way. You got too much time off. It's the whole concept of it's not even it wasn't talking about I love what I do. Is no, I'm trying to be master of the universe. And I'm trying to I'm all about getting this bag. So so that whole fallacy doesn't work in the United States of work life balance. It can't be if you're always trying to get the money, make the money, get the money, make the money.
Hmm.
Because there's nothing else. That's the whole focus. I. There's no we. This ain't France. There
Hmm.
is no we. It's no thinking of the society as a whole. I'm good. My family gonna be good. My kids gonna be good. Screw the
Yep.
public school system. Screw through all these social programs that can be a fallback when somebody's hitting hard times. I'm good. That's all that matters. It's the Hunger Games, man. It's gonna turn into Hunger Games.
Yeah. Yep. What a shame.
So let's move on. Let's come to the end to our partner shop, which we call Hill Said What Hill Said. What you got for me today?
Um, it's actually something that did happen in Congress this week. They recently just came back from their Easter recess, and there's been a couple of votes, specifically in the Senate, on Iran resolution, reining in the powers of the president, and his illegal waging of this war or this quagmire, whatever you want to call it. You can't call it a war. Um, but
Encouraging.
basically, yes. Um, but there was a vote on a resolution that, for calling basically Congress saying to end this, um, and it failed in the Senate. This is the fourth time it came up. It's the fourth time that has failed. It failed 47-52, and I want to touch on it because, and also something that happened in the House because it was a Democrats that voted to continue or voted against, issuing the resolution,
He ain't
and
no
it's just funny.
Democrat.
No, and that's the thing. It's funny of the one that it is because it's John Fetterman, from Pennsylvania, and he's such a disappointment, for the left of the Democratic Party, the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, because when he was lieutenant governor, when he was mayor of Braddock, he governed and he positioned himself as a progressive, someone that was on the side of working people, all working people. What he has become, and I think it's very important to mention that he had a stroke during his campaign. He was running. Was he running against Dr. Oz, or was that? Yeah. It was,
Yes, he
run,
was.
yes, and he was running against Dr. Oz of TV fame,
So
and
he had a free ride. But go ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he ended up having a stroke, and ever since then he's been different, and that's something that the right were really hammering on during that campaign was like, hey, like he's not fully there, and clearly, and you can see it. Obviously he's recovering from a stroke, but it means a lot that still the state of Pennsylvania still said, we'll go with him over Dr. Oz. But anyway, he gets into Congress, and it's very important to point out, and I remember hearing this at the time. He didn't have a he didn't have any standing. He didn't have his own opinion on the Israel issue. He didn't. They came to him and said, "Hey, at least don't don't say anything. At least don't say anything." He gets in the office. All of a sudden, he is the most pro-Israel guy that there is. He's wrapping himself up in the Israeli flag. He very famous. He's an everyman. He's a working man. He's a tall, brolic dude, big dude.
He looks like a
Always,
biker.
yeah, always wearing. He's always wearing sweatpants, t-shirts, shorts, and a shirt. First time he put on a suit, Benjamin Netanyahu was coming to Congress. First time that man put a suit on. How is he to be taken seriously? He crossed the aisles and voted with Republicans. It means a lot. Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky, he voted for, he voted with the Democrats basically in issuing the resolution. But he's one of those libertarian. He stands on it. He is one of those people. And yeah, most libertarians are hypocrites, but when it comes to most issues, he's for it. So I
But
will
he
give him that.
stands on his business. He
Yes,
always
exactly.
stands on his
Yes,
business.
yes, he does. So I,
Yeah.
so I, I
Yeah.
will, I will always give him that. But I wanted to highlight that. I also wanted to highlight that a similar vote happened in the House, and this one is even more egregious because it doesn't just speak to this one person; it speaks to the leadership, and I'll get to it in a second. But that vote failed 213-214. So one vote. That one vote, a Democrat crossed the aisle to vote against the resolution, and it was Jared Golden from Maine. And important to point out, he's not running for re-election. he announced a couple months ago that he wasn't seeking re-election to Congress. So he has nothing to lose. Jared Golden has received almost $4 million from APAC,
What's
which
APAC?
is what is it? The American, it's the American Israeli campaign, basically, political
Political
action
Action
committee.
Committee.
Yeah,
Yeah,
political action committee.
it's for our, I
Where
know
they,
what it was.
yeah,
I mean, it's for our people.
yeah. It's the pro Israel lobby. Very important to point out that criticisms of APAC, criticisms of Israel is not anti-Semitic, because that's what they, and especially when inserting criticism of the Israeli government and of their brutal campaign in Gaza and Lebanon and in Iran, they like to say, "Oh, if you try to say this and that about Israel, you're being anti-Semitic. You're speaking about the Jews." No, we're not. We're speaking about the pro-Israel lobby and the actions of the Israeli government. That's who we're talking about. And so, going back to this vote, Jared Golden was the one vote against it, but Jared Golden is not the one Democrat that is against Iran, that is for Israel. They are not. What he was is the scapegoat to say, hey, you have nothing to lose. You're not seeking re-election. So you be the one to tank this, not us. Even if we don't actually want this to happen, but you be the guy. So it's just I just want to point it out because that's who the Democratic Party is. They want to be the good guy. They say, hey, look, we voted for this. We were on the right side. It just didn't pass. Why didn't it pass though? Why is it that constantly somebody is fucking it up? And it's not just that person, it's the party at large that is doing it. It's the party at large that's doing it. And again, and I don't want people to I wouldn't call myself a Democrat. I am registered as a Democrat. Although there's an election coming up, so but I do vote for the Working Families Party under that line in New York City. But the Democrats need to be so much better than they are. I don't align myself with the values of this current Democratic Party because they have proven themselves not to be a party that I want to align myself with. Same thing with a whole bunch of other people, which is why Trump gained in Hispanic voters, which is why Trump gained. And it's something I want to point out earlier, and I know I'm going a little longer than we usually do for this, but
Okay,
when you talk
don't
when you
let
talked
me
about
know.
when you talked about can you welcome these voters back? I think you can welcome these voters back because where I'm at in New York City, and I remember because I've been saying this, I definitely told you this. I knew Trump was going to win in 2024 because in Queens and in Harlem, I
Mhm.
saw black and brown people in those red hats. I
You
did.
told me.
It
Yeah.
happened. And those black and brown people, they surely did vote for Trump. But guess what they also did? They voted for AOC and they voted for Zoran Mamdani. What does that tell you? They're hungry for change. The Democratic Party has to be the party to bring that because they're the most equipped to bring that. They're the ones whose the ideas and the values that they express, that they say that they stand for, it's in line with what the people want. So they are the most equipped to bring that kind of change. And the fact that they continue to be in the pockets of money, of corporations, of business, of Israel, of foreign governments. No, that's not America first. Doesn't matter that we're talking about the Democratic Party. It's not America first. It's not, you're not the part, you can't be the party of the working class. You can't be the party of the middle class if that's the kind of things that you support. And if these are the kind of people that you refuse to stand up to. So yeah, I just saw that and I thought it was really interesting, and because of course it would be someone like Jared Golden, and then of course it would be John Fetterman and the Senate to do it.
So expound on that just a little bit. I mean, I really believe with Fetterman, I think that Trump really hampered him and his mindset. I don't know if he's actually fully cognizant and he, I don't know if he's been taking money or this, that, and that. But for a person that was progressive
Hmm.
and literally like a wolf in sheep's clothing type thing,
Hmm.
to be just, and don't get me wrong, I do not want to, I do not want anybody to be a representative that is like a gold stamp for their party if they actually really have certain beliefs, and it's something that's been spouted. They have spouted
Hmm.
all the time. Because one thing I hate is a flip flopper, you know. But he was totally progressive, and he
Hmm.
is now fully right wing. He is now the Joe Manchin of the Senate. He is the Sitterbrand, the Kirsten Sillibrand of the Senate.
Gillibrand. Yeah.
Gillibrand. Yeah, I'm sorry. And it's to the point where as though they they have to primary him whenever.
Hmm.
I'm not even sure when his 6 years is up. We need to look into that, but he is definitely going to get a primary challenge from the left, and
28.
it's 28,
Because I think it was 20. Was it 2022?
122.
Yeah,
Okay,
that sounds right.
okay, that sounds close to right. I would, yeah, yeah, probably, yeah, yeah. The next go around, the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
2 years,
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
yeah. And ultimately, if the Democrats were to actually, because the markets are saying they'll flip it this year
Yeah.
with Alaska, North Carolina, Ohio, uh, Iowa,
Maine.
uh, Maine, he will still be a thorn in the side
Hmm.
because you can't count him. But on that other side with the golden thing,
Hmm.
totally, I totally agree. And I mean, you know how this works. I mean, as much as I do, leadership came and found like who can we point this on that's not
Yeah.
going to hurt them, that's not going to get a primary challenge, or it's going to lose vote. Uh, yeah, this guy. Because these listeners, Congress don't go to the floor and not knowing what the vote's going to be. That's what a whip does. They whip votes, and then if if you have a holdout with certain things, they're like, okay, what do you want so you can vote on this side? What can we get for you, your district, this, that, and other? They chose that man to take that L because there's no repercussion to it.
Hmm.
He might have got a little sweetheart, little deal in the private sector. Yo, this is what we gonna do. You gonna take this L, so we ain't got to deal with it. Because look,
Hmm.
I can't lose this APAC one.
Hmm.
These people actually do. I seen it yesterday, including the minority leader,
Hmm.
do these speeches and these commercials for APAC and talk about how they are aligned with Israel. And Israel has been crucial. APAC has been crucial to their campaign and their and to their candidacy and to their representation and everything. They've been crucial and been a supporter of them. So they support me, so I support them.
Hmm.
It's downright disgusting. And
Yep.
people need to actually focus and actually learn these things because you need to know the people that represent you, who are they in bed with?
Hmm.
Because if they are in bed with certain people, that's the way they go. It doesn't matter how you feel.
Hmm.
They're they're not going to be aligned with you. My
Yep.
my point, my parting shot is it has to do with tonight's theme of capital and how this works. I brought this up. I brought this up to Jan. I ran this through to her on Sunday because Many people don't know this. I didn't actually really know this till a few years ago. So I don't blame people if you don't know. The 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment, which was put into, and it abolished slavery, the chattel slavery that had
Hmm.
never existed anywhere in the world. Before these geniuses in the United States created chattel slavery, it was slavery in other countries and other places in the world, but and it was indentured servitude, whereas though you would do something for 7 years, but it was never where to a point where as though you were born a slave, whereas though your offsprings were in servitude until the Americans. I'm not just going to say United States because it was all through the Caribbean. It was all in the Americas. There's a loophole, y'all. Slavery is actually not banned. It was a compromise that Lincoln had with the Confederacy. And the loophole states that no one would be in servitude or slave except if punishable by crime. Huh? Yeah.
Yep.
In 2026, right now, that is still on the books and that's still being worked and used. Now, how you say? For one, people that are in prison, they work. A lot of them, they do work around the prison with laundry, cleaning, and maintenance and
Hmm.
things of that nature. And they receive a wage from anywhere between 13 cents to 52 cents an hour to do those things. But they actually don't see the money. In most cases, 80% of that goes to room and board and also their court fees or their fines. On the flip side, separate from that, they are loaned out to private corporations. I don't know if people, if you could think back to the popular show Orange and the New Black, when the women, they were they one of the jobs that the women had, they were making lingerie for a popular lingerie company, and they was getting pennies on the dollar. But also, it's 7 states in this union still: Alabama, Arkansas, South Carolina, Georgia, Texas. Oh, that's the seven. But in those states, those prisoners do work in the prison and get loaned out, and they don't see a dime.
Hmm.
To the point where, as though, and this was in a 2025 article from Wall Street Journal, $2 billion in services and goods were produced by inmates. Total, when you talk about loaning these people out to private corporations, these inmates generate $11 billion a year. They do jobs like agriculture, like for instance, Angola. For people that don't know what Angola is a prison in Louisiana. It's like one of the worst prisons there is. But and you know what Angola does? They do dairy farms and things that you develop from dairy farms. And the corporations that get us, that's Angola's the supply chain for Walmart, for Target, and for McDonald's. That's prison labor. That's slave labor that these corporations are taking advantage of for the incarcerated.
Hmm.
I'm black. You black. You might be watching this. You may be black. I look through everything in the lens of being a black man in America. We we calculate to be between 13 and 15% of this country. If you want to take all the people that identify as black and everybody, it's about 15. They said 15.2%. But we are currently 37 to 38% of the prison population. Black man is five times gets incarcerated five times more over than a white person. So they switched the system from being chattel slavery to just being state sanctioned penitentiary slavery. And we're living in that to this day. It never changed. I know people probably had heard of the Black Code in the South right after Reconstruction. So whereas though they would, or you couldn't be caught sleeping near a railroad or walking this place or that place, you get arrested, and then guess what you did? They put you right back on the plantation, right back. And we still on the plantation today.
Yes, and it's just call it something else.
It's called
That
something else.
that's what it's just to call it something else. It's yeah, we're not gonna enslave you anymore, but we're gonna make sure that we're in completely different spaces. Though we can't use the same bathroom. You can go to the same schools. All right, now you can go to the same schools. We're gonna move to a place called the suburbs. We're gonna price you out of here. We're gonna start these things called private golf courses, private pools. We're gonna privatize everything and make it memberships. That's what we're gonna call it, memberships, and to make sure that you can't fit in. But and it's funny you said that because I was actually thinking about that, like slave labor, especially out of the jails. Closely with the California wildfires, and I remember they used a
Yeah.
lot of prison labor fighting those.
Yeah.
And I remember they passed a law a little after the wildfires that increased the pay to like for the inmates who were
I
fighting the
mean,
fires to 775. Was 775 or 725? It might have just been the federal minimum wage, but still, because they're out here fighting fires, risking their lives just for pennies an hour basically. And it's absolutely unbelievable. Not to mention, and I think they're looking to start a program where the people that actually do that, if when they get out, that they can go into you know um, um, being a firefighter and working on programs like that. But we'll see if that actually materializes. But just like you said, they'll ban it, they'll outlaw it, whatever the case is, but they'll still try to do it. Just they'll find a back door. They'll just call it something else.
for
They'll dress it up a
capitalism,
different way. Yep,
it all
yep.
breaks down back to capitalism because the easiest way, and you'll see it even in your profession and your job, whereas though you may work a place and you're down two or three people, or they will lay people off, and now you're doing the workload for two or three people
Hmm.
because they're saving money that way. They're cut corners that way just because of the bottom line. And to just be able to have their 11th yacht, their seventh home. You know, another thing that I want to touch on before we end up is the warehouse fires.
In Canada, right?
No, in America.
Oh,
The one was in Ontario, that was Ontario, California. That
oh,
Kimberly Park, that was in Ontario, California.
oh! I did not see that. Oh, I saw the thing, but I didn't see. Oh, interesting.
It was the Kimberly Park. And it dawned on me, I knew that name because Kimberly Clark is the corporation that does Huggies, toilet paper, and it was all paper products. And in the video, the person that just had a regular old Zippo said, "You can't pay us a living wage, so you don't pay us enough, so I don't do this."
Hmm.
It wasn't it wasn't the only one. It's been fires. It was somebody burnt down one in Queens, New York in January, right near you. But it's last week it was six. But this and then I saw the video when they did a deep dive. They did a deep dive on this. It was supposedly $500 million worth of inventory.
Mm.
So you have this. It's toilet paper, it's Huggies, it's paper towels, and things of that nature. So obviously, this is not. This is a warehouse. These people working. So it's not just a storage area. This stuff is moving.
Yeah.
Everybody got to wipe their ass, and everybody kids need some diapers.
Hmm.
They had 20 employees. This is what I'm saying. I'm being told they had 20 employees that worked in this warehouse. We can talk about this because nobody was injured. In no human life, it was no casualty.
Hmm.
I would talk about it anyway because this is the Hunger Games. This is when people getting fed up. The average wage at this warehouse, they made between 23 and some change and 20 to 27 and some change. So that calculated up to about like $47,000 a year. Where they lived at in the area with the cost of living, a living wage for living in Ontario, California is $67,000 a year.
Mm.
So they were working full time jobs making $20,000 under the livable wage. But this company made $2.5 billion in profit the previous year. Let's play a game. If they paid their employees to that amount of 60, that 20 extra $20,000, and it had to be more than 20. But they said if they paid them the livable wage, it would have cost them $750 million. Must have been, it might have been a night shift. It was only 20 people there at the time.
Hmm.
It would have cost them $750 million to pay all their employees to that $67,000 that would have been livable for the area that they lived in. They still would have came out with a plus of what? 1.7 billion.
Mm.
It's nothing but greed.
Greedy. Yep.
It's nothing but greed.
You could have.
Nothing will change until you burn the shit down. And you won't sit there, people might sit there and say, well, now these people are out of work. They warehouse workers. It's warehouse. They can go get a warehouse job somewhere anywhere. It's not a greatly skilled thing. And if if they get unemployment in California, you get unemployment. You probably making close to the same amount you was making when you was working there.
Mm.
You already you struggling and you breaking your back every day.
Yep. Shameful.
I'm not caping for no corporation.
Never.
I'm
Nope.
not crying over no millionaires and billionaires losing some toilet paper, losing a bill. Treat people with respect and pay them what they deserve to be paid and stop being greedy And guess what? Your building ain't going to get burned down.
Hmm.
Data centers. This is what in Indianapolis. Did you hear about this? What happened in Indianapolis?
Yep.
In Indianapolis, they're trying to put a data center in the mayor or whatever. So, and of course, you know where they're going to put it at? They're going to put it in the black community because that's what they do. They always put it in where we at.
Yep.
You know what happened? What happened to the mayor?
They shot him up. Was it the mayor? I think it was like a council member or something like that.
Yeah,
But yeah,
they shot his house
they
up,
shot the door. Yep. And you know what?
and
He still
they
voted
left the
for it.
sign.
Yep.
They left the sign and said no data centers.
Yep.
Sam Altman, what they do to Sam Altman? You heard what they did to Sam Altman, the gentleman you talk, the AI guy that wants to put all the people out of business and just wants to automate everything.
Now what happened to him?
Molotov cocktail.
What do you expect? It's not. I don't condone violence, but what do you expect people to do? It's
People
the
hungry,
it's
man.
it's the Luigi Mangione effect, the guy who killed the United Healthcare CEO.
Allegedly.
What do you elect?
Allegedly.
But what do you expect people to do? How much do you expect people to take? And again, and it's not a advocating for that. It's not supporting that, but it's saying what is the next logical step? What is the end game? What do again? What do you expect people to do? At some point, somebody is going to reach their point where it's they have to retaliate, whether it's against the system, against the person who's oppressing them, or in the case of the warehouse workers, it's the bosses. That's who it always is. That's who it always is in this country. It's the bosses. Now the bosses on different levels, they're different people. In this situation, it's literally the corporation, and that's mainly who it always is. It's always the corporations looking to make a dollar, not caring about their workers, not caring about the customer. They're worried about their bottom line, themselves. Because just like you said, they need to buy their seventh home. They need to buy their 10th boat. Did you see Nancy Mace, representative from South Carolina? She came out and said boating is not a luxury, it's a way of life. So advocating for basically like a recreational boat tax subsidies for these people who go out and boating. That's what she's saying. She was like, no, that's just a nice way to spend the weekend and over in South Carolina. These people are so disconnected.
He's running for
That
governor.
yeah, but it's
He's running for governor.
completely disconnected
Yeah.
from what's going on, and that's not right. These aren't the people who should be governing us. These aren't the people that should be in power. And again, money should not be power. Money is not voice, and that's what it is.
I'm gonna quote some. I don't know who said it, but it was very popular when I was coming up, and it has something to do with what you're saying. We're not advocating and for things like this, but it's it. The statement was, "I ain't no killer, but don't push me.
Hmm.
You push people, and they think they don't have any other outlet. They gonna do some foul shit."
Hmm.
But the thing Malcolm X said, chickens come home to roost.
Hmm.
You know, he also stated that a revolution, there is no bloodless revolution. America is always about revolution.
Hmm.
And it's going to, that's how America became about through revolution. Black man shed blood was the first one to shed blood in the American Revolution. Which was added. It's going to get to the point where as though people don't see any other outlet than actually taking things away
Hmm.
from the powerful. The craziest thing, I don't know if I stated it to you on here or or it was just in our regular conversations, but when they were doing an interview of the CEO of Goldman Sachs, and he said, how can we get out of this? How can we get an economic term? And he just plainly and bluntly told the truth, which was so freaking amazing. He said, "Oh no, we need to change the tax bracket. We need to have a progressive tax. Rich people need to pay more, and we
Hmm.
need to close loopholes to make them so whereas though they can't hide their money and not pay for capital gains. It's the only way
Hmm.
to do it is to have to change the tax code in order to, so whereas though things could actually flow down.
Hmm.
Because even before, for instance, that company had had buyback, which used to be illegal. You
Yeah.
couldn't. You used to not be able to actually buy back your own stock, and they do it as a ploy. You buy back your own stock, then you actually by doing that you raise the price of it and the value. So now your company is worth more. Before it was a method of where though it was stocks was born. People, individuals own stocks, and it was like a publicly traded thing.
Hmm.
But now, so they allow corporate stocks, and this is the whole thing about again when we talk about deregulation and the insert of capitalism,
Hmm.
and it's all fake because buy corporate buybacks is just fake, just to manipulate the stock price and the value. They did a, they wind up making millions of dollars the prior year on this buyback,
Hmm.
but they can't pay their employees. See,
Hmm. Should have
they're
trickle down.
heading, they're heading behind here, saying this is our mantra, and I want people, well, people that's listening, they can't see it, but it's progress is a state of mind. It's time to get your mind right. It's the only way that we can get out of this thing as a whole, and all this is in ebbs and flows. When y'all don't understand politics, America, everything is ebbs and flows, revolutions, up and down, left, right. It goes on forever.
Hmm.
To come out of this Christian nationalist conservatism, because for one, they're the minority in this country.
Hmm.
And we need to do a show on, and it's going to come on how the minority party can actually rule the country. And whereas though minority thoughts can actually come present, abortion is actually backed by over 70% of people in this country. So how did Roe get over it? Huh? How is it
Hmm.
when they bring it up on every state ballot that's not down there where the cousins still get married down south? It gets blown, it gets busted out, and it gets thrown in Kansas, in Montana, in Nebraska. People don't want people in their business and worry
Hmm.
about other people's bodies. But that's a whole nother show. And this was a great conversation, and we
Yeah.
done ran over time as usual. But I thank you guys for listening, and I hope that you like, share, push this to your friends, and let them know that it's an uphill battle, and we are here to fight it for the long haul.
Mhm.
And we'll see you next week.
For sure. Be right back at it. Take care.
Good night. All right, buddy. I'll talk to you later, bud.
All
Have
right.
a good night. All right.